The sun was setting over the city skyline, casting long shadows through the grand windows of the Meridian Hotel. 10-year-old Nathan Santos sat quietly on a plush bench in the corner of the lobby, his small fingers tracing the worn edges of his violin case. The case had belonged to his grandfather, just like the violin inside. Both showed signs of age and love, scratches that told stories, smooth patches where hands had held them through years of music. Nathan wasn't supposed to be in the main lobby. His mom, Elena, worked as a housekeeper at the hotel, and he usually waited for her in the staff break room. But today, Mrs. Patel at the front desk had smiled and told him he could sit in the lobby if he promised to stay out of the way. The hotel was hosting some important event later, and Nathan was fascinated by the workers putting up fancy decorations and arranging flowers taller than he was. "Just stay in that corner, sweetie," Mrs. Patel had said. "Your mom will be done in about an hour." So Nathan sat watching people come and go. He noticed how some folks walked in like they owned the place, head high, not looking around much. Others seemed nervous, checking everything twice, speaking too loudly to the staff. Nathan had gotten good at watching people. When you're quiet most of the time, you notice things others don't. Elena had taught him to be invisible in places like this. "We are here to work, not to be seen," she often reminded him. But Nathan sometimes wondered what it would be like to be the kind of person who walked into the Meridian Hotel and made everyone look up. The automatic doors swished open, and a group of men in expensive suits walked in. Nathan immediately knew they were important, not just from their clothes, but from how everyone around them suddenly got busier. The hotel manager appeared out of nowhere, shaking hands and smiling wider than Nathan had ever seen. At the center of the group stood a tall man with silver-streaked hair and a confident stride. Unlike the others, he wore no tie, and his shirt collar was open as if regular rules didn't apply to him. The man seemed bored as the manager talked excitedly, nodding occasionally while checking his phone. "Mr. Blackwood, we're so honored to have you here again," the manager was saying. "Your usual suite is prepared just how you like it." Nathan leaned forward, curious. He'd heard that name before. Richard Blackwood owned half the buildings in the city, according to his mom. She'd pointed out his picture in a magazine once, calling him the man who never stops building. Just then, a hotel worker carrying a large vase of flowers stumbled slightly near Nathan's bench. Without thinking, Nathan jumped up to help steady the vase, bumping into someone as he moved. He looked up to find himself staring into the cool gray eyes of Richard Blackwood. "Sorry, sir," Nathan said quickly, stepping back. His elbow had knocked against the Millionaire's expensive-looking jacket, and Nathan felt his stomach drop. His mom could get in trouble for this. For a moment, Blackwood looked annoyed. Then his eyes fell on the violin case Nathan had left on the bench. "What's this? A musician in our midst?" His voice was deep, with the kind of accent people on TV had. He didn't sound angry, just amused. Nathan nodded, unsure what to say. Around them, the hotel staff had frozen, watching the interaction with worried expressions. Blackwood raised an eyebrow. "And what do you play?" "Chopsticks?" A few of the men behind him chuckled. "Violin, sir," Nathan said quietly, looking at his shoes. "A violinist. Well, now that's something." Blackwood turned to his group. "Gentlemen, we may have discovered the next Paganini hiding in our hotel lobby." Nathan didn't know who Paganini was, but he could tell from the laughter that followed that Blackwood was making fun of him. Heat crept up his neck and into his cheeks. "May I ask what a young violinist is doing alone in this lobby?" Blackwood's tone was light, but his eyes were sharp, calculating. Before Nathan could answer, the hotel manager stepped in. "Mr. Blackwood, this is Nathan Santos. His mother is on our housekeeping staff. He's waiting for her shift to end." "Ah," Blackwood said, his interest visibly fading. "Housekeeping?" Something in the way he said it, like the word itself was beneath him, made Nathan's embarrassment turn to something else. Pride, maybe, or defiance. "My mom's the best housekeeper here," he said, looking directly at Blackwood now. "She can get any stain out of anything." There was an awkward silence. Then Blackwood let out a surprised laugh. A real one this time, not the practice chuckle he'd used before. "Is that so?" he said, studying Nathan with new interest. "And are you as good with that violin as your mother is with stains?" Nathan hesitated. He wasn't sure how good he was, really. His grandfather had taught him the basics before he passed away 2 years ago. Since then, Nathan had been teaching himself using videos on the public library computers and practicing whenever he could. They couldn't afford lessons. "I practice a lot," he said finally. "Practice, practice, practice," Blackwood said in a sing-song voice. The battle cry of mediocrity everywhere. One of the men behind him snorted with laughter. Blackwood reached into his jacket and pulled out a sleek leather wallet. The movement was casual, but something about it felt like a performance. He removed a crisp $100 bill and held it between two fingers. "Tell you what, kid, why don't you play something for us? Right here, right now." He waved the bill slightly. "Show us what all that practice has accomplished." Nathan stared at the money. $100 would help with the electric bill that his mom had been worried about. But something about the way Blackwood was smiling made his stomach twist. I can't play here," Nathan said. "It would disturb people." "Disturb people?" Blackwood laughed again, louder this time. "You hear that, gentlemen? The boy is concerned about disturbing people." He turned back to Nathan, his smile fading. "Listen, kid. In this world, you either make noise or you get swept aside. No one remembers the quiet ones." Nathan didn't know how to respond to that. He looked around desperately, hoping his mom would appear and rescue him from this situation. Instead, he saw Mrs. Patel watching from the front desk, her face concerned. Blackwood seemed to lose interest. He tucked the bill back into his wallet with a dismissive gesture. "Never mind. You probably can't really play anyway." Just as he was turning away, Nathan found his voice again. "I can play." Blackwood turned back slowly, eyebrows raised. "What was that?" "I said I can play," Nathan repeated louder this time. "Just not here, not now." The millionaire studied him for a moment, then seemed to make a decision. He reached into a different pocket and pulled out a business card. With a gold pen from yet another pocket, he scribbled something on the back. "There's a charity event in this hotel next Friday evening," he said, holding out the card to Nathan. "Rich people pretending to care about poor people. The usual boring affair." He tapped the card. "Show this to get in. If you can play something that doesn't make my ears bleed, I'll do more than give you $100. I'll pay for proper lessons." Nathan took the card carefully, reading the elegant script on the front. "Richard Blackwood, CEO, Blackwood Developments. And if you really impress me," Blackwood continued, his voice dropping so only Nathan could hear, "I'll help set you up for life. A real future, not just cleaning up after people like us." The words stung, but the offer hung in the air between them. Nathan looked up from the card to find Blackwood watching him with an unreadable expression. "What do you say, kid? Ready to show the world what you've got? Or are you going to hide in the corner forever?" Before Nathan could answer, the hotel manager cleared his throat nervously. "Mr. Blackwood, if we could proceed to your suite. The mayor will be arriving shortly for your meeting." Blackwood waved a hand impatiently, already turning away. "Think about it," he called over his shoulder to Nathan. "One song. Next Friday. Play and I'll raise you up from all this." He gestured vaguely at the hotel lobby. "Or don't and stay invisible." And then he was gone, swept into an elevator with his entourage, leaving Nathan standing alone with a business card in his hand and his heart pounding in his chest. From across the lobby, Mrs. Patel hurried over, her face worried. "Are you okay, sweetheart?" "I'm so sorry. I should have called you to the desk when I saw him coming." Nathan nodded absently, still staring at the elevator doors. "I'm okay. What did he give you?" she asked, eyeing the card. Nathan showed her, explaining the challenge. Mrs. Patel's eyes widened. "Oh my, that's unexpected. Wait until your mother hears about this." Nathan's stomach dropped again. His mom would never approve. She always told him to stay out of sight, to be careful, to not draw attention. This was the opposite of everything she had taught him. Yet something about Blackwood's challenge had lit a fire inside him. Not because of the money or the offer of lessons, though. Both would be amazing. It was something else. The chance to be seen. Really seen. Not as Elena's quiet son or the kid who waited in the staff room, but as himself. As a musician. "Please don't tell my mom yet," Nathan said suddenly. "I want to tell her myself." Mrs. Patel hesitated, then nodded. "All right. But you tell her today, you hear me? No secrets." "No secrets," Nathan agreed, carefully tucking the business card into his violin case. As he sat back down on the bench, his mind was already racing ahead to next Friday. One song, one chance. What would he play? How would he practice enough in just 1 week? What if he failed completely and everyone laughed? But underneath all those worries was a tiny, growing spark of excitement. For the first time, Nathan allowed himself to imagine standing in front of a crowd, violin in hand, playing the music that lived inside him. For the first time, he dared to wonder if maybe, just maybe, he could be more than invisible. Elena Santos was tired, the kind of bone-deep tired that came from changing sheets in 28 hotel rooms, scrubbing bathrooms until they gleamed, and vacuuming miles of carpet, all while smiling politely at guests who looked through her as if she were invisible. But her exhaustion vanished the moment she saw Nathan's face in the staff break room. Something had happened. "What is it?" she asked, setting down her cleaning cart and looking her son over for any signs of trouble. "Did something happen while you were waiting?" Nathan hesitated, his fingers playing with the zipper of his backpack. "I met someone today," he said finally. Elena's heart sank. Working at the Meridian Hotel meant strict rules about keeping her family separate from her job. Nathan was only allowed to wait for her because her supervisor, Mrs. Garcia, had a soft spot for single mothers. "Who did you meet?" she asked carefully. Nathan took a deep breath. "Richard Blackwood." Elena dropped onto the nearest chair, her legs suddenly weak. "The Richard Blackwood, the owner of half the city? What were you doing talking to him? Where were you waiting?" "Mrs. Patel let me sit in the lobby," Nathan admitted, "and I didn't mean to talk to him. He bumped into me and then he saw my violin case. And then..." He pulled a business card from his pocket and handed it to his mother. Elena took it, noticing the handwritten note on the back. "Charity Gala, Friday 7 p.m., one song." Her English wasn't perfect, but she understood enough to feel a chill run down her spine. "What is this about, Nathan?" she asked, trying to keep her voice steady. As Nathan explained the challenge Blackwood had issued, Elena's expression shifted from concern to outright fear. Men like Blackwood didn't notice people like them unless they wanted something, or unless they wanted to make trouble. "No," she said firmly when Nathan finished. "Absolutely not. You are not playing at some fancy party for rich people to laugh at you." "They won't laugh," Nathan insisted. "I'll play really well, and Mr. Blackwood said he'd pay for lessons if I'm good enough." "Real lessons, Mom." Elena shook her head, her black hair escaping from its tight bun. "Men like that don't keep promises to people like us, Nathan. He was just having fun at your expense." "But what if he wasn't?" Nathan's voice cracked slightly. "What if this is my only chance?" Elena looked at her son, really looked at him. At 10 years old, he was still small for his age, with her dark eyes and his father's stubborn chin. The violin had been his grandfather's idea. Elena's father had played in a mariachi band back home in Mexico, and when he moved in with them after Elena's husband left, he'd taught Nathan the basics. After her father died, the violin became Nathan's connection to the grandfather he'd adored. "Please, Mom," Nathan whispered. "I need to try." Elena closed her eyes briefly. She knew what it was to have dreams crushed by reality. She'd once wanted to be a teacher before life took her down a different path. Could she really deny her son this chance, slim as it might be? "Let me think about it," she said finally. "Now get your backpack. We need to catch the bus." That night, after Nathan went to bed, Elena called her friend Lucia, who worked in the hotel's events department. "A charity gala next Friday?" she asked. "For what cause?" "Children's music education, actually," Lucia replied with a laugh. "Ironic, right? Rich people paying $1,000 tickets so poor kids can have music lessons." "Why are you asking?" Elena explained the situation. There was silence on the other end of the line. "Lucia, are you there?" "I'm here," Lucia said slowly. "I'm just shocked. Richard Blackwood is not known for his generosity. Quite the opposite, in fact. He foreclosed on an apartment building last month and evicted 12 families right before Christmas. So why would he challenge Nathan like this?" Elena asked, voicing her deepest fear. Lucia sighed. "Entertainment, probably. These people get bored easily." After she hung up, Elena sat at their small kitchen table for a long time, staring at Blackwood's business card. The right thing would be to tear it up, to protect Nathan from disappointment or worse, humiliation. Yet she couldn't bring herself to do it. Instead, she went to Nathan's room and stood in the doorway watching him sleep. On his dresser sat a framed photo of her father holding a very young Nathan, both of them smiling as they held the violin between them. Elena made her decision. The next morning, she woke Nathan up earlier than usual. "You have 5 days to practice," and she told him. "If you're going to do this, you're going to do it right." Nathan's face lit up. "Really, I can play at the gala?" "Yes," Elena said, "but with conditions. First, no neglecting your schoolwork. Second, you practice only the piece you'll play. No experimenting. And third," she took a deep breath, "if Mr. Blackwood doesn't keep his promise, you have to promise not to be too disappointed. Sometimes people let us down, especially people with money and power." Nathan nodded solemnly. "I promise. What will you play?" she asked. "The piece Grandpa taught me," Nathan said without hesitation. "But I want to make it better. I've been working on it." Elena nodded, though her heart ached at the mention of her father. "Okay, but remember, just one song. Make it count." For the next 5 days, their tiny apartment filled with music. Nathan practiced before school, after dinner, and every moment in between. The old violin that had belonged to Elena's father seemed to take on new life in Nathan's hands. On the third day, Mrs. Garcia called Elena into her office at the hotel. "I hear your boy is playing at Blackwood's gala," she said without preamble. Elena froze. "How did you know about that?" Mrs. Garcia shrugged. "News travels fast around here. Half the staff is talking about it." She leaned forward. "Listen, Elena, I like you. You're a good worker. But if this goes badly, it won't affect my job," Elena finished for her. "I promise. Nathan will play his song and that's it. No disruptions." Mrs. Garcia didn't look convinced. "Blackwood has the power to buy and sell this entire hotel with pocket change. If he decides he doesn't like your son's playing—" "I understand," Elena said quietly. "I'll make sure Nathan knows the stakes." That evening, Elena sat Nathan down at their kitchen table. "We need to talk about Friday," she began. "I've been practicing really hard," Nathan said quickly. "Listen, I can play the whole thing without any mistakes now." "It's not about your playing," Elena said. "It's about what might happen afterward. Nathan, my job at this hotel is very important. It pays our rent, buys our food. If something goes wrong at this gala," Nathan's face fell. "You think I'll embarrass you?" "No." Elena took his hands in hers. "Never. I'm so proud of you, of how hard you're working." "But Mr. Blackwood, he's not like us. He has different rules. If he doesn't like your playing, or if he was just joking about the whole thing, I need you to be prepared." "What if he laughs at me?" Nathan asked in a small voice. Elena squeezed his hands. "Then we walk away with our heads high, knowing you did your best. Your worth isn't determined by what Richard Blackwood or anyone else thinks of your music." Nathan nodded, but Elena could see the worry in his eyes. It mirrored her own. Thursday night, the day before the gala, Elena came home from work to find Nathan sitting on the floor of their living room, his grandfather's violin in pieces in front of him. "What happened?" she gasped. "The bridge collapsed," Nathan said, his voice eerily calm. "And when I tried to fix it, the sound post fell." He looked up at her, his eyes filled with unshed tears. "I can't play tomorrow." Elena knelt beside him. "We'll fix it," she said, though she had no idea how. "We'll find someone who can help." But at 8 o'clock on a Thursday night, finding a violin repair shop that was open proved impossible. Every place Elena called was closed until morning. "Maybe it's a sign," Nathan said as they ate a quiet dinner. "Maybe I wasn't meant to play at the gala." Elena watched her son push food around his plate. All week she'd been worried about what would happen if Nathan played at the gala. She hadn't considered how crushed he would be if he couldn't play at all. "Wait here," she said suddenly, grabbing her purse. "I need to make a call." 10 minutes later, Elena returned to find Nathan washing the dishes, his movements mechanical, his eyes distant. "Get your coat," she said. "And bring the violin." "Why?" Nathan asked. "It's broken." "Because," Elena said, a small smile playing on her lips, "Mrs. Patel's husband plays in the city orchestra, and he has agreed to meet us at their apartment to look at your violin." For the first time since she'd come home, Nathan's face brightened. "Really? Do you think he can fix it?" Elena shrugged, trying to temper his expectations. "I don't know. But we're going to find out." As they hurried to catch the bus, Elena glanced at her son. His arms were wrapped protectively around the violin case, his expression a mix of hope and fear. Whatever happened tomorrow at the gala, whether Blackwood kept his word or not, whether people applauded or laughed, Elena knew one thing for certain. She would be there. watching her son take a chance that she had never been brave enough to take herself. And for that alone, she was proud. Mr. Patel opened his apartment door with a warm smile that eased some of the tension in Elena's shoulders. He was a small man with kind eyes behind round glasses and a neatly trimmed beard sprinkled with gray. The apartment smelled of cardamom and violin resin, a strange but somehow comforting combination. Come in, he said, ushering them inside. Anita told me about your situation. Let's see this violin. Nathan hesitated, clutching the case to his chest as if it contained something far more valuable than a broken instrument. It's okay, Elena whispered. Mr. Patel is an expert. Reluctantly, Nathan placed the case on the dining room table that Mr. Patel had cleared. He opened it carefully, revealing the separated pieces of his grandfather's violin. Mr. Patel made no comment about the violin's obvious age or the worn finish. Instead, he examined each piece with the focus of a doctor assessing a patient. His hands moved with practiced precision, turning the instrument to catch the light, peering inside through the F-holes, testing the tension of the strings that remained attached. The good news, he said finally, is that nothing is broken. The bridge has collapsed, yes, and the sound post has fallen, but these are common issues. Fixable. Relief washed over Nathan's face. You can fix it? I can, Mr. Patel nodded. But may I ask what you'll be playing tomorrow? And for whom? While Nathan explained about the challenge from Richard Blackwood, Mr. Patel's expression grew more serious. He glanced at Elena, a question in his eyes that she understood immediately. Was this a good idea? Was Nathan being set up for humiliation? Elena gave a small shrug. She had asked herself the same questions all week. Richard Blackwood, Mr. Patel said thoughtfully when Nathan finished. I've played at several events he's hosted. He appreciates quality, though not always the effort behind it. He looked directly at Nathan. Are you certain you're ready for this? Nathan swallowed hard. I've been practicing really hard. And it's just one song. But sometimes one song is all we need to say what's in our hearts. Mr. Patel smiled. Which piece will you play? It's something my grandpa taught me, Nathan explained. A Mexican folk song, but I've been changing it a little, making it my own. Mr. Patel's eyebrows rose. May I hear it? Just hum a bit of it? Nathan closed his eyes and began to hum a melody that started slow and mournful, before picking up tempo. Elena felt her throat tighten. Her father had played this song at weddings and birthdays, at christenings and funerals. It was woven into the fabric of her childhood. Beautiful, Mr. Patel said when Nathan finished. Simple but powerful. And you've been modifying it? Nathan nodded. I wanted to add something that sounds like when you're sad but also hopeful. Does that make sense? Perfect sense, Mr. Patel assured him. He turned to Elena. Your son has good instincts. This piece could be very moving in the right hands. And are his hands the right ones? Elena couldn't help asking. Mr. Patel smiled. That remains to be seen. But I believe they could be. He gestured to the violin. Let me fix this and then we'll see what Nathan can do with it. For the next hour, Elena watched in fascination as Mr. Patel repaired the violin. He worked methodically, explaining each step to Nathan, who absorbed the information with rapt attention. He showed the boy how to properly position the bridge, how to use a special tool to reset the sound post, how to check that everything was aligned correctly. The soul of the violin, Mr. Patel said, indicating the sound post, must be in the right place for the heart to sing. He handed the reassembled instrument to Nathan. Try it now. Nathan positioned the violin under his chin and drew the bow across the strings. The first note wavered slightly, but as he continued, the sound grew stronger, more confident. Mr. Patel listened with his eyes closed, his head tilted slightly. When Nathan finished, he opened his eyes and looked thoughtful. The instrument is fixed, he said, but it needs to be properly tuned, and your bowing could use some adjustment. He held out his hand. May I? Nathan handed over the violin, and Mr. Patel demonstrated a technique for smoother transitions between notes. Like this, he said, playing a short passage. You see? The bow becomes an extension of your arm, which is an extension of your heart. For the next 30 minutes, Mr. Patel gave Nathan an impromptu lesson, correcting his posture, adjusting his finger positions, offering suggestions for interpretation. Elena watched in amazement as her son's playing transformed under the guidance of an experienced musician. You have natural talent, Mr. Patel told Nathan as they wrapped up. But talent alone is not enough. It needs nurturing, guidance. He turned to Elena. If your son is serious about music, he should have proper lessons. That's what Mr. Blackwood promised, Nathan said eagerly. If I play well tomorrow. Mr. Patel nodded, but his expression was reserved. Just remember, Nathan, whatever happens tomorrow, your worth as a musician and as a person is not determined by one man's opinion. As they prepared to leave, Mr. Patel handed Nathan a small container of rosin and a polishing cloth. For the violin, he said. Keep it in good condition and it will serve you well. Thank you, Nathan said, his voice thick with emotion. For everything. You are most welcome. Mr. Patel smiled. And I expect to hear how it goes tomorrow. Anita will let me know. On the bus ride home, Nathan cradled the repaired violin on his lap, his expression thoughtful. What are you thinking? Elena asked. I'm thinking about what Mr. Patel said, Nathan replied. About the violin having a soul? He looked at his mother. Do you think Grandpa's soul is in this violin? Elena felt her eyes sting with unexpected tears. I don't know, she said honestly. But I do know that when you play, I can feel him with us. Nathan nodded, satisfied with this answer. I'm going to make him proud tomorrow. You already have, Elena assured him. That night, Nathan practiced one last time before bed. Elena sat on their small couch, eyes closed, letting the music wash over her. Thanks to Mr. Patel's adjustments and guidance, Nathan's playing had improved dramatically. The notes were clearer, the transitions smoother, the emotion more evident. The folk song that her father had played countless times now carried something new. Nathan's own voice, his own heart. When he finished, Elena opened her eyes to find her son watching her expectantly. Well, he asked, do you think it's good enough for tomorrow? Elena considered lying, telling him it was perfect, but she respected him too much for that. I think it's the best you've ever played, she said instead. And I think you should be proud no matter what happens at the gala. Nathan nodded, carefully placing the violin in its case. I'm scared, he admitted. I know, Elena said. Me too. What if I mess up? What if I forget the notes? Elena moved to sit beside him. Then you find your way back. Music isn't about perfection, Nathan. It's about feeling. Your grandfather used to say that a wrong note played with passion is better than a right note played with. Out it. Nathan leaned against her shoulder. I wish Grandpa could be there tomorrow. He will be, Elena said softly. In the music. The next day passed in a blur. Elena had taken a rare day off from work, using one of her few precious personal days. She spent the morning ironing Nathan's best shirt and pants, polishing his scuffed shoes until they gleamed. Nathan was unusually quiet, picking at his breakfast, running through fingering positions without the violin. By late afternoon, the butterflies in Elena's stomach had grown to the size of birds. What if Blackwood had forgotten about his challenge? What if they showed up at this fancy gala only to be turned away? Or worse, what if Nathan played beautifully and Blackwood still mocked him? She was considering calling the whole thing off when there was a knock at their door. Elena opened it to find Mrs. Patel standing there holding a garment bag. I hope you don't mind, she said, stepping inside. But I thought Nathan might need something special to wear tonight. She unzipped the bag to reveal a boy's suit, slightly worn but well-maintained. It belonged to my nephew. He's outgrown it, but I think it might fit Nathan perfectly. Elena started to protest. They couldn't accept such a gift. But Mrs. Patel waved her objections away. It's just gathering dust in our closet. Please let it have one more grand evening out. And so, as the afternoon light began to fade, Nathan tried on the suit. The pants were a bit long, but Mrs. Patel knelt and quickly pinned them to the right length. The jacket fit well across the shoulders, giving Nathan an air of maturity that made Elena's heart skip. You look so handsome, she told him, straightening his collar. Just like your grandfather when he dressed up for special performances. Nathan stood a little taller at these words. Do you think Mr. Blackwood will keep his promise if I play well? Elena exchanged a glance with Mrs. Patel. I don't know, she said honestly. But what I do know is that you're going to play your heart out on that stage. And no matter what happens afterward, we'll face it together. Mrs. Patel smiled approvingly. And you won't be alone, she added. Half the hotel staff is planning to be there tonight. Not officially, of course. But many of us have volunteered to help with the event just so we can see Nathan play. This news seemed to both encourage and terrify Nathan. Everyone will be watching? He asked, his voice rising slightly. Everyone will be supporting you, Mrs. Patel corrected gently. We're on your side, Nathan. All of us. As Mrs. Patel left to make her final alterations to the suit pants, Nathan turned to his mother. I just want to make you proud, he whispered. Elena hugged him tightly. You already do. Every single day. With the sun setting outside their apartment window, casting long shadows across the floor, Elena checked her watch. It was almost time to go. The charity gala would begin in an hour, and with it, Nathan's moment of truth. Whether it ended in triumph or disappointment remained to be seen, but one thing was certain. Tonight, her son would not be invisible. The Meridian Hotel looked different at night. Glass chandeliers that Nathan had barely noticed during the day now sparkled like falling stars, casting warm light over marble floors polished to a mirror shine. Men in tuxedos and women in glittering dresses moved through the lobby, their laughter and conversation creating a buzz that made Nathan's stomach tighten with nerves. He clutched his violin case in one hand and Elena's hand in the other. His mother looked different tonight, too. She'd borrowed a dress from Lucia, a simple blue thing that made her look like someone who belonged at fancy parties, not someone who cleaned the rooms afterward. Her hair was pulled back in an elegant knot that she'd learned to do from a YouTube video, and she'd applied a touch of lipstick that she saved for special occasions. But despite her transformation, Elena's eyes kept darting around nervously, as if she expected someone to recognize her and order her back to the service elevators where hotel staff normally traveled. Are you sure this is okay? Nathan whispered as they approached the ballroom entrance. What if someone gets mad that you're here? Elena squeezed his hand. Mrs. Garcia approved it. She spoke to the event manager. We're guests tonight, guests. The word felt strange, foreign. In all the years Elena had worked at the Meridian, she and Nathan had never been guests. At the entrance to the ballroom, a young woman with a tablet checked names against a list. She frowned when they stepped up. Name, please? Nathan reached into his pocket and pulled out the business card Richard Blackwood had given him. I'm supposed to play tonight. Mr. Blackwood invited me. The woman's eyebrows rose slightly as she took the card. She studied it, then looked at Nathan more carefully. You're the violin boy? Nathan nodded, unsure if this was good or bad. To his surprise, the woman's face softened into a smile. We've been expecting you. Mr. Blackwood mentioned you might be coming. She made a note on her tablet, then pointed toward a side door. You'll want to go through there. That's where the evening's performers are gathering. As they walked toward the door, Elena leaned close to Nathan's ear. See? You're expected. That's a good sign. Nathan wasn't so sure. Blackwood expecting him didn't necessarily mean Blackwood was planning to be kind to him. The side room was buzzing with activity. A string quartet was warming up in one corner, while a woman in a sparkling gown was doing vocal exercises in another. A harried-looking man with a clipboard approached them. Are you Nathan? He asked without preamble. Nathan nodded, his throat suddenly dry. I'm Doug, the event coordinator. Mr. Blackwood said you'd be playing one piece tonight. Is that correct? Yes, Nathan managed to say. Just one song. Doug made a note on his clipboard. You'll go on after the quartet and before Ms. Winters. He nodded toward the woman doing vocal exercises. That's in about 45 minutes. There's water and snacks on the table if you need them. After Doug hurried away, Elena led Nathan to a couple of empty chairs in the corner. How are you feeling? She asked. Scared, Nathan admitted. There are a lot of important people out there. Elena took his hand again. Just remember what Mr. Patel said. Play from your heart. And remember that whatever happens, I'm so proud of you for being brave enough to try. Nathan nodded, but his eyes were fixed on the door leading to the ballroom. Somewhere out there, Richard Blackwood was waiting, watching, judging. I need to practice, Nathan said suddenly, opening his violin case. Just one more time. He took out the instrument, positioned it under his chin, and began to play softly. The familiar melody calmed him, reminding him of his grandfather, of afternoons spent learning finger positions and bow techniques. As he played, he closed his eyes, letting the music fill him until there was no room left for fear. When he opened his eyes again, he found several people watching him. The string quartet, Ms. Winters. Even Doug had paused in his frantic preparations. That's beautiful, Ms. Winters said. What is it? It's a folk song my grandfather taught me. Nathan replied, lowering the violin. I changed it a little bit. Well, it's lovely, she said with a warm smile. You play with real feeling. Nathan felt his cheeks warm at the praise. Thank you. 5 minutes, quartet, Doug called, breaking the moment. Nathan, you'll be on in about 20. The next 15 minutes passed in a blur. Nathan listened as the quartet played a piece that sounded like something from a movie soundtrack, all sweeping melodies and dramatic pauses. The audience applauded enthusiastically when they finished. Then Doug was beckoning to Nathan, leading him to the doorway. You'll walk to center stage, bow, and then play your piece, Doug instructed. When you're done, bow again and exit the same way you came in. Got it? Nathan nodded, though his legs felt like they might not carry him even a single step. Good luck, kid, Doug said, giving him a surprisingly gentle pat on the shoulder. Just breathe. Elena squeezed his hand one last time. Remember, play from the heart, Nathan finished for her. I know. Then Doug was opening the door and Nathan was walking into a sea of light and faces. The ballroom was packed, tables filling the vast space, each one surrounded by people in fancy clothes who all turned to look at him as he made his unsteady way to the center of the small stage. As his eyes adjusted to the bright lights, Nathan scanned the crowd looking for one face in particular. He found Richard Blackwood at a table near the front, surrounded by important-looking people. The millionaire was watching him with an expression Nathan couldn't read. Not exactly a smile, but not a frown either, just waiting. Nathan positioned his violin, took a deep breath and began to play. The first few notes came out shaky, his fingers stiff with nerves. But then as the melody took shape, something shifted inside him. The crowded ballroom faded away until it was just Nathan and the music his grandfather had taught him, the music he had made his own. Each note rang clear and true, telling a story of loss and hope, of struggle and triumph. As he played, Nathan thought of his grandfather's weathered hands showing him how to hold the bow. He thought of Elena working long hours to keep a roof over their heads. He thought of Mr. Patel carefully repairing the broken violin, treating it with the respect it deserved. The melody soared, filling the vast space of the ballroom. Nathan swayed slightly as he played, eyes closed, completely absorbed in the music. He had never played so well, had never felt so connected to the instrument, to the song, to himself. When the final note faded away, there was a moment of complete silence. Then, someone began to clap. Another person joined in, and another. Suddenly, the entire ballroom erupted in applause. Not just polite applause, but enthusiastic, some people even rising to their feet. Nathan opened his eyes, blinking in surprise. He looked toward Blackwood's table and found the millionaire watching him with an unreadable expression. Then, slowly, Blackwood stood and began to applaud as well. Doug appeared at the edge of the stage, gesturing for Nathan to bow. Remembering the instructions, Nathan dipped his head in a quick bow before hurrying off the stage, his heart pounding. Elena was waiting in the wings, tears streaming down her face. Nathan, she whispered, pulling him into a fierce hug. That was beautiful. So beautiful, did you see? Nathan asked, his voice muffled against her shoulder. They liked it. They really liked it. Of course they did, Elena said, pulling back to look at him. How could they not? Ms. Winters squeezed past them, pausing to touch Nathan's arm. That was extraordinary, she said. Truly special. As the applause continued, Doug reappeared, his clipboard forgotten. Mr. Blackwood wants to see you, he said. Both of you. In the reception room. After Ms. Winters' performance, Elena's grip on Nathan's shoulders tightened slightly. Is that good or bad? She asked. Doug's face broke into a rare smile. In all the years I've coordinated these events, I've never seen Richard Blackwood give a standing ovation. So yeah, I'd say it's good. As Doug hurried away again, Nathan looked up at his mother. Do you think he'll keep his promise? About the lessons? Elena smoothed his hair back from his forehead. I don't know. But whatever happens next, you showed everyone in that room who you really are. You showed them your heart. And that's something no one can take away from you. They found seats at the back of the room to watch Ms. Winters perform. Her voice was powerful and trained, filling the space with practiced perfection. The audience applauded enthusiastically when she finished. But Nathan couldn't help noticing that Blackwood remained seated this time. As the applause died down and the evening's formal program shifted to dinner service, Doug appeared again. They're ready for you now, he said, gesturing for them to follow. Nathan clutched his violin case with one hand and reached for Elena's hand with the other as they made their way through the crowded ballroom. People turned to look as they passed, some smiling, others whispering behind their hands. "That's him," Nathan heard someone say. "The boy with the violin." For the first time in his life, Nathan wasn't invisible. People saw him, not as Elena's quiet son, not as the kid who waited in the staff break room, but as himself. As a musician, whether Blackwood kept his promise or not, Nathan had already gained something precious: recognition, respect, a voice. As they approached the door to the reception room, Elena squeezed his hand one more time. "Remember," she whispered, "no matter what he says, you were magnificent tonight." Nathan nodded, took a deep breath, and stepped through the door to face Richard Blackwood. The reception room was smaller than Nathan had expected, with dark wooden panels on the walls and a large painting of the hotel's founder hanging over a marble fireplace. A few well-dressed people stood in small groups talking quietly, champagne glasses in hand. At the center of it all was Richard Blackwood, deep in conversation with an older man in a tuxedo. When Nathan and Elena entered, the conversations quieted. Blackwood looked up, his expression unreadable. He excused himself from the older man and walked toward them with measured steps. "So," he said, stopping a few feet away. "The boy with the violin." Nathan swallowed hard, unable to find his voice. Elena's hand tightened protectively around his shoulder. "What's your name again?" Blackwood asked. "Nathan Santos," he managed to say. "And this is my mom, Elena." Blackwood's gaze shifted briefly to Elena, recognition flickering in his eyes. "You work here, don't you?" "Housekeeping?" Elena lifted her chin slightly. "Yes, for 8 years now." Blackwood nodded, then returned his attention to Nathan. "Where did you learn to play like that?" "My grandfather taught me the basics," Nathan explained, his voice steadying. "After he died, I taught myself. From videos, mostly." "Videos," Blackwood repeated as if the word tasted strange in his mouth. "And who taught you to modify that piece?" "The changes you made to the traditional melody. That wasn't something you'd learn from basic videos." Nathan blinked, surprised that Blackwood had noticed the modifications. "No one taught me that part. I just heard it in my head. I wanted the song to say something more." A small smile tugged at the corner of Blackwood's mouth. "And what was it saying?" Nathan thought for a moment. How could he explain it to someone like Blackwood? It was about my grandfather. About missing him, but also knowing he'd be proud. About being scared but doing something anyway. Blackwood studied him with newfound interest. "That's quite sophisticated for someone your age." From across the room, a woman in a shimmering gold dress called out, "Richard, darling, don't keep us in suspense. Is this the prodigy everyone's talking about?" Blackwood turned slightly. "Yes, Vivian. This is Nathan Santos, the violinist." The way he said violinist, not boy or kid, but violinist, made Nathan stand a little taller. Vivian glided over, followed by several others who seemed equally curious. "My dear, you played beautifully," she told Nathan. "I was moved to tears, and I'm not easily moved." She turned to Blackwood. "Richard, you simply must do something for this young man. Such talent shouldn't go to waste." "That was my intention," Blackwood replied coolly. He gestured to a quiet corner of the room. "Nathan, Miss Santos, shall we speak privately for a moment?" Elena nodded, and they followed Blackwood away from the curious onlookers. When they were relatively alone, Blackwood's posture relaxed slightly. "I want to be clear about something," he said, looking directly at Nathan. "When I challenged you to play at this gala, I didn't expect much. I thought at best you might manage something technically adequate but unremarkable." He paused. "I was wrong." Nathan felt a rush of pride, but it was tempered by caution. He'd learned not to trust easy praise. "What you played tonight wasn't just technically impressive, though. There are certainly things a good teacher could help you refine," Blackwood continued. "What stood out was the emotion. The story you told through your music." He looked at Elena. "Your son has a rare gift. Raw talent can be found anywhere, but the ability to move people, that's much harder to teach." Elena nodded, her eyes shining with unshed tears. His grandfather had the same gift. He could make people laugh or cry with his music. "I made a promise," Blackwood said, turning back to Nathan. "Play well and I'll pay for proper lessons. I'm a man of my word." He reached into his jacket and pulled out not his wallet, but a business card, different from the one he'd given Nathan before. This is Antonio Reyes, the best violin teacher in the city. He's also the concertmaster for the symphony orchestra. I've already spoken to him about you." Nathan took the card with trembling fingers. "You already spoke to him?" "Before I played?" Blackwood's mouth curved into a half-smile. "I always prepare for multiple outcomes. If you'd played poorly, I would have simply canceled the arrangement." "And now?" Elena asked cautiously. "Now Antonio will expect your call on Monday morning to arrange twice-weekly lessons, all expenses paid, including a new violin better suited to Nathan's developing skills." Nathan looked down at the business card, then back up at Blackwood. "Why?" he asked simply. The question seemed to catch Blackwood off guard. "Why what? Why help me? You don't know me. You don't owe me anything." Blackwood was quiet for a moment, studying Nathan with an intensity that made the boy want to squirm. "Do you know what this gala is for?" he asked finally. Nathan nodded. "Children's music education." "Yes, but do you know why I personally support this cause?" When Nathan shook his head, Blackwood continued, "Because music was once my lifeline too." This revelation hung in the air between them. Elena's surprise mirrored Nathan's own. "I grew up in circumstances not so different from yours," Blackwood said, his voice lower now. "My mother cleaned houses. We never had quite enough of anything. But I had a talent for piano and a teacher who believed in me." "You play piano?" Nathan couldn't hide his astonishment. "I did," Blackwood corrected. "I had the technical ability but not the passion to pursue it professionally. I chose a different path." He gestured around them at the opulent room. "One that proved more lucrative. But I never forgot what music gave me. Discipline, focus, a sense of possibility beyond my circumstances." He turned to Elena. "Ms. Santos, your son has something special. Something worth nurturing. The lessons are just the beginning. If Nathan continues to develop as I believe he can, there will be opportunities for specialized summer programs, maybe even pre-college courses at the conservatory when he's a bit older." Elena looked overwhelmed. "That's very generous, Mr. Blackwood, but we couldn't possibly—" "It's not charity," Blackwood interrupted, a hint of his usual sharpness returning. "It's investment in talent, in potential." He looked at Nathan again. "All I ask in return is that you work hard, that you never waste a lesson or take this opportunity for granted, and that someday when you're in a position to help someone else you remember this moment." Nathan nodded solemnly. "I promise." "Good." Blackwood seemed satisfied. "Now there are some people here you should meet. Patrons of the arts who could be useful connections in the future." The next 30 minutes passed in a whirlwind as Blackwood introduced Nathan to what felt like every important person in the room. Names blurred together, but the reactions were consistent. Expressions of admiration for his playing, questions about his background, offers of tickets to concerts and recitals. Through it all, Elena remained by his side, quiet but watchful, her hand occasionally squeezing his shoulder in reassurance. Finally, as the evening was winding down, they found themselves near the exit. Blackwood, who had been drawn away by other guests, approached them one last time. "Antonio will expect your call on Monday," he reminded them. "Don't disappoint him or me." "We won't," Elena assured him. "Thank you, Mr. Blackwood, for giving Nathan this chance." Blackwood nodded, then hesitated as if considering whether to say something more. Finally, he extended his hand to Nathan. "You proved me wrong tonight, Nathan Santos." "That doesn't happen often." Nathan shook the offered hand, surprised by how normal it felt, warm and solid just like any other hand. "Thank you for challenging me, even if you were kind of mean about it at first." Elena gasped at her son's boldness, but Blackwood threw back his head and laughed, a genuine laugh that crinkled the corners of his eyes. "Fair enough," he said. "Sometimes we need a push to show what we're really capable of." He glanced at his watch. "I have other matters to attend to now. Remember, Monday morning. Antonio doesn't tolerate lateness." With that, he was gone, swallowed by the crowd of glittering guests. Outside the hotel, the night air was cool against Nathan's flushed face. The borrowed suit jacket felt heavy on his shoulders and his fingers ached from gripping the violin case so tightly, but inside he felt lighter than air. "Do you think he meant it?" he asked Elena as they waited for the bus. "About the lessons and everything?" "I think so," she said, still sounding a bit dazed. "Mr. Blackwood is many things, but I've never heard of him breaking a promise." Nathan looked down at Antonio Reyes's business card, running his finger over the embossed letters. I can't believe this is happening. Believe it, Elena said firmly. You earned this, Nathan. With your talent, your hard work, and your heart. She put her arm around him. Your grandfather would be so proud. As the bus approached, Nathan took one last look at the Meridian Hotel, its windows glowing against the night sky. Just a week ago, he had sat in its lobby, invisible to everyone who passed by. Now everything had changed. The bus doors opened with a hydraulic hiss. Elena stepped on first, dropping their fare into the collection box. Nathan followed, carefully maneuvering his violin case through the narrow doorway. As they found seats near the back, an older woman smiled at Nathan. That's a violin case, isn't it? Do you play? Nathan exchanged a glance with his mother, then turned back to the woman with a smile. Yes, he said, his voice clear and confident. I'm a violinist. The bus pulled away from the curb, carrying them home through the city streets. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. The call to Antonio Reyes, the beginning of formal lessons, the hard work of turning raw talent into disciplined skill. But tonight, those challenges seemed like opportunities rather than obstacles. Nathan leaned his head against the cool glass of the window, watching the city lights blur into streaks of gold and silver. In his mind, he could still hear the music he'd played, still feel the weight of Blackwood's approval, still see the pride in his mother's eyes. A violinist, he whispered to himself, testing how the word felt in his mouth. It felt right. It felt like his future.